Start over.
Okay, I can start over, but I don't want to bore everyone, so I'll start by saying that thank you, Magdalene, for the warm introductions. My name is Craig Brown. I'm the managing director of Excellion. Um, I have I have a certification as a Scale Agile Framework professional consultant, which allows me to train in various aspects of the Scale Agile Framework with very different roles. I also am a certified SAP Focus Build tool coach, which is a tool set that would basically facilitate the implementation of SAP solutions, and it manages all of the tasks and the steps associated with from requirements to deployment. I have two full life cycles of implementing SAFe as well as S4HANA, SAP S4HANA into um, uh, larger organizations such as Boeing and Coca-Cola and others that I'll share with you at a little later on in the presentation. I am the founder and the subject matter expert for the SAP Digital Transformation Solution, which is a solution that can basically allow you to do digital transformations with the SAP product, but also with other products that would be considered to be business applications as well. Um, it includes the SAFe methodology and processes. It includes Solution Manager, which is another tool of by SAP, as well as the Focus Build tool that I was just speaking to. And lastly, my company Excellion is one of only 10 organizations in the world that is a certified Focus Solution Circle partner with SAP, meaning that we have the skill set and the experience, the proven experience, to implement the product by the name of Focus Build, as well as deploy the Scale Agile framework into larger organizations such as the one that I mentioned, which is Boeing and Coca-Cola. Now, we became a certified partner because we basically were able to get the Boeing organization or a representative of that organization to endorse us with a strong recommendation. And we also co-presented with Boeing at the annual Sapphire event, which is held in Orlando in 2018. Now, let me continue. And let me also say this, is that now the Scale Agile framework, those who may be thinking, well, if this is an SAP thing, this is not really going to work for me because I'm not in that space. Well, the Scale Agile framework is really application, technology, infrastructure agnostic. It doesn't really look at that particular, any particular tool set or any application and favor towards that. This is more of a business and IT transformation solution that you can use with any environment. It basically is a methodology and a framework that can be used across the entire organization, and it takes a lot of local, if you will, agile processes and scales it from the team to the program to larger solutions all into the portfolio. And I'll go over that in quite extensively in the upcoming slides. What is SAFe exactly? SAFe is a freely reviewed knowledge base of integrated, proven patterns for enterprise lean agile development. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that you can take different levels of the organization, as I mentioned before, and you will have several processes that will be embedded within the organization to really take an agile approach to doing business, opposed to the waterfall methodology that is used in a lot of organizations today that are now taking the steps to migrate into an agile approach. In the past, the agile processes were considered to be for smaller organizations. And in some instances where, and how some companies practice the agile methodology, it still is considered to be on the smaller scale. What SAFe has done is basically took those smaller concepts, if you will, and it scaled it, as I mentioned before, across the entire organization. And when it scaled it across the entire organization, it made it very apparent, very easy to integrate the entire organization, to have one flat organization, if you will, with the mindset of having a lean approach to deployment, and having everyone to be on the same accord. SAFE does a very good job of tearing down barriers and culture issues that would be embedded in organizations ordinarily. And it really does a great job at ensuring that there's a lot of transparency embedded within the organization. Now, SAFE can be measured in its value by 4 different quadrants. One would be the time to market, meaning how quickly do you deploy additional features and functionalities that helps your business to stabilize and grow into your environment. So SAFE promises to decrease your time to market by 30 to 75%. And there are several different case studies and examples on the Scale Agile framework site that will basically show you how organizations that have deployed SAFE has taken advantage of these processes and did just that, decrease the time in market. It also speaks to the quality. So roughly around 50%, anywhere from 25 to 50%, you can improve the quality of the software that is deployed into the production environment because of the fact that you do SAFE is a test-driven deployment process or framework, whereas you test first, see what type of functionality that you need, and then continue with the design, the build, the show, and perhaps deployment of the functionality that you would have to deploy into the production environment based on the needs of your business. Having taken that approach, you can really improve the quality and be more spot on, if you will, of the functionality that is going to be deployed into the organization, into an environment, because you get a sense of the pulse of the organization in real time and continuous, opposed to having a big bang approach to where with most project waterfall type approaches, where you do a boatload of design and blueprint work up front, building your projects, and then deploying, or building and then testing and then deploying with a big bang approach. Whereas SAFE takes another approach from an Agile approach altogether. So you can see how having that approach as well as with a testing approach, it can really improve the quality, and SAFE promises to do that up to 50%. Productivity. It would increase your productivity from 20 to 50% because of the fact that you are now able to deploy functionality into your environment more frequently. So opposed to, again, the Big Bang Theory, at the end of the project, when you deploy your application or deploy your functionality, you're able to do this in increments that is feasible to your firm or feasible to the growth and flexibility that's required for your firm to grow. So having functionality deployed in sprints or at the most in a program increment, and which is a be around every 3 months or so, you can have that functionality be available to you in increments more frequently, opposed to waiting again until the end of the project. And lastly, it's measured by the engagement. So 10% more engagement you can expect from your end users, because you have the ability to, at this juncture, now look at there's less workarounds that the company would have to endure, because the frequent design, build, test, and show approach is now embedded. So you can deploy much more frequently into your production environment. Hence, and also by way of doing so, you would eliminate more workarounds more frequently into your environment. so you can engage your end users much more frequently and much more sooner in the process. Therefore, they would engage with the system opposed to doing extensive workarounds. Why safe? So I mentioned this briefly already, but I'll go over it once again in more detail. So the Scale Agile framework, as you see, is basically it goes across the entire organization, from the portfolio, solution, large solutions, the program, and the team. Now, but the first question to be asked is, how you answer that question is why safe, is that safe really is successful when you have one or two things in existence. Number one, either it would be the burning platform, meaning that the way that you're deploying and the way that you're managing your projects today is just not working. So you have to have a way or you have to be able to quantify and be able to see based on potentially project failure, project time frame slipping, going over budget, so on and so forth, which is creating a burning platform from a project perspective, but also from a production malfunction, if you will, perspective as well. If your projects are not being done accurately and you're not getting the working software into your production environment to support your business, then the business would suffer. So that would be considered a burning platform. So that's one reason why you would go to SAFE, to improve in that deployment, as I mentioned before, where SAFE can help. The other is proactive leadership. So from a proactive leadership perspective, you would have an individual who would be a leader in your organization who sees that if you utilize the SAFE framework and deployed your software using those processes embedded within that framework, you can then begin to improve to the likes of the other organizations that I mentioned, like your Boeing and your Coca-Cola. When you are able to take advantage of that and be proactive, have a proactive leader, that proactive leader would then be your champion. That would be a SAFE Agilist in most cases, to go and champion all of these particular processes and the approach, and they would advocate that the organization adopt the SAFE framework. So those are the two reasons why you go, or I guess it would be, you can say that it would be some of the core reasons why you would go to SAFE. But embedded in the SAFE framework, you also have the ability to be very transparent in your deployment processes. So what that brings to the table is that from a portfolio perspective, you would have, from portfolio, large, program, and team, you would have deliverables that are all tied together and all very transparent in its determination and its completion. So that's a huge benefit of SAFE, because that would basically allow you to break down barriers within the organization, as well as have one vision that the organization is following, that the leadership would be able to articulate and illustrate in a presentation that would be embedded in an activity called the program increment, which is a session that will basically be occurring every 3 months. Now, this would continue with having your features and your capabilities to be determined based on what the vision of the organization is and the epics that were created when they created the strategic direction. And then from that event, which would basically create the direction of the firm, you would then create the features and the capabilities that enables that change in the direction of that organization. I hope you're following me so far. Once those capabilities and features are created, the next step in the process is that those particular items will be prioritized in the same meeting that I spoke about, which is the program increment. And at the program level, you would then be able to begin to prioritize that work, scope that work, and then once it's scoped, then you would take it down to the user story level, which would also be create a backlog of work to be done by the team, and then the team will then be responsible for actually doing the build, test, and show work of those user stories, which then reports back up to the Epic. And from with that particular across the organization transparency, that across the organization vision alignment is what really is the heart of SAFE. I'm going to pause for a second and see if I have any questions or if that made sense to anyone on the call. Anyone got any questions? You with me so far?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'll continue. So let's talk a little bit about the role of the SAFE Agilist. So as I mentioned before, the SAFE Agilist is going to be the individual who basically has the role to be the champion, and he or she is usually in a leadership role, and they have the onus to, once the SAFE determination has been made, and an organization is going to transition to the Scale Agile framework, then the leading SAFE or SAFE Agilist resources should be trained. And throughout the entire process, when that individual is trained, he has the knowledge of the mindset to be in a lean, agile organization, and he basically has the understanding of all of the different processes that he would be engaged in to help to push SAFE across the organization. Then that resource will become extremely valuable. So the role of the SAFE Agilist is an individual that would basically, again, be the champion of SAFE, but also have the ability to not only begin with say, for example, a small department to roll SAFE out, but also have the onus and have the responsibility to expand SAFE throughout the organization by basically illustrating and demonstrating the value that has occurred from implementing SAFE in a smaller environment. So, and I know a question is probably in the back of everyone's mind, and a question that would be coming up is, well, how do I deploy SAFE? I'm going to talk about that a little more in detail in the slides to come, but just to give you a little taste, is that the best way to deploy a framework like SAFE is first in a smaller environment, to where if you have one department that had a clear set of deliverables, a clear set of requirements, has a proactive leader in that environment as well as have a team of resources that has the ability or the desire to improve their operations and improve how they work as a team, that will be the ideal department to deploy SAFE in the beginning. And once you do the deployment of SAFE in that particular environment, and you should have some successes, you would then show the other organizations the success that has occurred, and then you can basically do an invitation for other organizations and for other resources to come over to the SAFE framework and form their own teams. So it's basically an invitation-based solution. That's very helpful, and that's very beneficial, because it doesn't have the typical mandate for the organization to adopt such a transforming approach, whereas the resources that would be engaged in the new way of working would have some skin in the game. So they would be more apt to abide by the processes and abide by the new way of working, opposed to fall right into the same culture barrier or the culture setbacks, if you will, to do the same thing that they've always been doing. So that's an important point to understand. Let's talk a little about the Leading SAFE course itself that we offer, and that we have a class coming up on Saturday and Sunday of this week. The syllabus is one where you can see here, we go into Introduction to the Scale Agile Framework, or SAFE, and we talk about all of the principles, all of the manifestos, the house of Agile and other components that would allow us to have the mindset and all of the approaches that will be used to do the deployment of SAFE into our organization. So it's principles, it's core values, it's things of that nature you would learn in that particular module or that lesson. Then we're going to becoming a lean agile leader, which would basically take some of those core values, take some of those lessons that you learned or those concepts that you learned, and beginning to utilize those in your environment to help the organization move to SAFE. Then we would talk a little bit about establishing the team and technical agility of the organization, and that's across the board. So forming the teams at the team level, having the teams formed at the other layers of the level of the organization, be it the program, the large solution, as well as the portfolio, and being able to utilize those teams to really facilitate SAFE in a way where it is beneficial to the organization. The next one is going to be extremely important, and it's going to be an approach that is going to be the cornerstone of SAFE, which is basically experiencing the program increment or the planning session that will be used to do that transparent planning that I spoke about. Whereas you would set the vision as the leader of the organization, talk about the strategic theme, or talk about the company-wide changing efforts perhaps that the company is engaged in to say, for example, do another way of another product they produce in their business, for example. And you would go through the entire process that I went through earlier, which is you determine the epic that is that changing event. You would create or understand or determine the capabilities and the features that are required to enable that epic. And then you would create your user story, prioritize all of that work, and then begin to do the teamwork at the team level, which would then be reported back through a series of reports and mechanism, perhaps a tool, to give the status of that epic. So you can kind of see how the program increment is extremely important to the organization as you would engage and deploy the SAFE framework into your environment. You would then get into, we would talk a little bit about release on demands and with DevOps, whereas as of now, I've been really speaking to requirement to deploy. I've been talking about from a project perspective, but we'd also get into how you would leverage the SAFE framework to manage all of your production environment issues or requirements, and how that would basically tie into the Scale Agile framework. Building business solutions and lean systems, we will get into how that would be applicable in this environment, either it be in the production environment or it would be from a project perspective. We will talk about how we can scale to align with what the organization needs in that particular environment to improve or to be stable in their current business model. Implementing the lean portfolio management, which is how we go about looking at the budget, how we go about looking at how do we fund the different entities to ensure that they have continuous flow of capital and resources so that they can do continuous value delivery into the organization. It's a different mindset that you would be utilizing in this particular environment opposed to with your typical waterfall, where in some instances you would create your project, and apply your resources to that project before within the design of the approach or of the implementation, if you will. So with the Scale Agile framework, the teams are formed, as I mentioned earlier, and what you would essentially do is you would bring the work to the teams opposed to building the teams for the work, if that makes sense. And the last is leading the transformation itself. We will talk about how those resources would be involved in leading the transformation with the structured sequential steps that are taken when you're deploying SAFe into a production environment or into an environment. We go through all of the training that occurs. We go through building out your value streams, building out your agile release trains, all of these particular components that would align very well into the deployment of SAFe, and also the maintenance of the SAFe framework, utilizing the releasing on demand and the DevOps approach. Who should attend SAFe course? Who should attend the course? There should be two individuals or two types of individuals that would benefit mostly from SAFe, the leading SAFe course. But certainly anyone with the ambitions to be in that area would also benefit as well. But generically, it should be the leaders of an organization that is about to or currently embarked in a digital transformation project. They can benefit greatly from taking the SAFe course and examination. And also individuals that are looking to improve their marketability in the transformation space as well. Because a lot of organizations on the larger side that are paying the big bucks and going through very difficult digital transformation efforts are looking for resources that has this background and this skill set. I joke with some of the participants in our last class, and we spoke about the fact that companies are not really interviewing individuals anymore for full-time positions, I should say, and asking about their background and their skill set. They're really having situational questions to be posed to those individuals who are interviewing. And when that's happening, you can kind of think through the fact that they're looking for individuals who play well within a team, opposed to what type of skill set that they can really leverage to have job security, if you will. So I've seen that in many organizations as a consultant, as I was engaged and involved in helping to choose the team. Therefore, I found it extremely beneficial, and I saw the benefit pay off for applicants that have these SAFe background and certification to get selected for that role. And that's also applicable for individuals who are consultants that are looking to be a part of a team as well. Having the SAFe skill set, understanding how the mindset works, the lean agile mindset works across the entire organization, and how there are predecessor and successor activities that play together, and where all that fits is extremely important for the culture, or to be able to fit into the culture of organizations that are looking to transform to SAFe. Why train with Excellion? Well, for one, we don't read from the slides. What we do is we use the full implementations of SAFe in large ERP environments that we have deployed the framework in, and we use fun and engaging real life examples because we have that background and that skill set. I sometimes leverage SAP quite a bit because SAP is the type of application, as I mentioned before, that is deployed into large organizations. And if you have SAP deployed in your environment, you're probably at least a $50, $100 million company. So having that type of budget would bring the a capability for that company to be able to pay consultants and pay internal resources the salaries and the bill rate that they would require and deserve, because they have a desire, the firm does, to really compete in the marketplace, because they have to be able to change, they have to be able to adapt, and they have to be able to deploy working software that aligns with their business approach very rapidly. And that's one of the reasons why they're going with SAFe. Our instructors have the ability to connect the dots because of that experience that we have in this space. to all of the different concepts, all of the different approaches that are being used, being able to articulate and explain from soup to nuts how everything would work into the framework. Our resources have that ability to do that. And the last is we do a very thorough end of course review that would allow you to be you would be successful, and we would ensure that you're successful when you take the exam. Although we don't teach to the exam, because one of the key points that we try to stand by is that we are teaching you to actually work in an environment that is going to save so you can be successful in your job. But we do call out some of the things that are on the exam so that you can be cognizant of the type of questions that will be asked in the exam. We also, in our thorough review at the end of the course, we talk about the structure of the questions, which is going to be extremely important, as you guys will see when you're taking the exam itself. And I'll give you an example. There may be, in this, you're probably very used to this. I believe that this is a group who have some experience or have some PMP certifications. But basically, the exam questions will go like there would be the same answer that you would think would be the answer, but it may have some different wording. But the wording will mean the same exact thing in terms from a definition perspective. So you would have to understand basically the concept and the details of the question, of the answer, to be able to answer it successfully. So in the end of the course review, we go over some practice examination questions that we've been able to accumulate. We let you kind of answer it, let you go through those questions along with the instructors, and we talk about, again, the setup of the questions so that you can really get a grasp and understanding of how these questions are asked and answered. Here's another reason to train with Excellion if you are a customer or an individual that is in the SAP space. As I mentioned before, that Excellion, the firm that I'm with, is a Focus Solution Circle member or partner that is one of 10 in the entire world. We are the only organization in the United States, however, that has a successful project that we've deployed, Focus Build, along with SAFE in the United States. That's extremely important because when we have conversations with the higher-ups in SAP, in organizations that are looking to deploy SAFE as well as Focus Build, we are heavily sought after by those organizations because we have demonstrated that we can deploy it into the production environments or into those environments successfully. That's important for you because we, again, bring that real-world experience to our teachings so that you can take advantage of that knowledge that we have as well. Excuse me. Here are some of the customers that we've helped. As you can see on the list here, companies such as the Republic of Zambia, which is on our top right here, Boeing and Coca-Cola. As I mentioned, we have helped them with education across the board in terms of the Scale Agile framework, as well as deployed the Scale Agile framework into the environment by helping them to form the teams, form the value streams, form the arcs, so on and so forth. So, and coach those organizations from the very beginning to the education piece, all the way until they have fully deployed multiple Agile release trains in their environment. So again, we have the experience and the background in education to really transform anyone who's interested into a pristine Agile coach. What will you be provided in that course? As a part of the documents and the things that you would get an end of course certificate from the Scale Agile framework. You will get an attendee workbook that you can use for reference in your future or existing projects. The formation of the booklets that are provided by SAFE are very thorough. And as we go through the training, again, we go through and we talk about how each concept is used in the real world. We give examples, and you can certainly update that document as we go along to make it even more valuable. We do an extensive, as I mentioned, preparation and eligibility to take the SAFE for Agilist exam. So now is at 4.6, so you would get the latest exam that's out there. You also get a 1-year membership and the SAFE community platform, which would allow you to interact with other SAFE Agilists, ask and answer any questions, get access to important and useful data that can help you in your effort to migrate or help your company to migrate into the SAFE framework. You will get the education that's required to excel in a digital transformation leadership role. So, you know, as you're going through the implementation or transformation to S4 to SAFE in your organization, you have the skill set based on that, on the experience that we bring to the table and provide to you in our training and our teachings to be able to leverage and utilize that in your own path. You also get future Excellion Academy tuition discounts. Now, what that means is this: every role, guys, that we have in that we teach in SAFE, there is a corresponding tool training that we provide. And I'll give you an example. So, with the Leading SAFE course, we also provide a course by the name of Management Dashboard for informed decision making. So that's a dashboard or a series of dashboards that would be embedded, for example, in the SAP Solution Manager and Focus Build system that would allow you to leverage those dashboards from a practical perspective to do all of the work that's necessary to report the status of a project, for example, that is being managed through the SAFE framework. So that not only provides you with the process, with the methodology, with the framework that SAFE brings to the table, but coupled with this technology-driven course that you get a discount with, you would have the ability now to have the entire package when you step onto a project or into your organization, which is extremely helpful. As I mentioned before, we assist the participant in our course until they pass the test. In other words, we will help you with additional reviews. You would be able to take a course again if you needed to at no charge, as long as we have the room in the class itself, so that you can ensure that we make sure that we take care of our students so that they can take the exam and pass the exam. That's one of the main goals, second to learning how to leverage the framework in your day-to-day work efforts. Now, testimonies. You guys probably seen in the introduction or as you were going through and looking on social media and looking at some of the things that would get you interested in actually taking this introduction to SAFE course. We have one of our customers, Novellus, that we have recently, they went through the Leading SAFE course itself, and Robert Max, the Global Application Technology Manager, has some very great things to say about the course, as well as Anita Womack, who also took the course, and she is a consultant that traveled from I believe New Jersey to take the course locally. So as you can imagine, there are other firms that offer the SAFE course, but the course that we offer, the experience that we bring to the table, the ability to couple it with tools that would help to facilitate the framework, we are second to none on that. So Anita found it extremely, mandatory to take the course through us. So I'm going to talk a little about the what, where, when, and the cost, and then we can listen to Rob's testimonial, and then I can answer any questions. So very quickly, the course is going to be held this week in Buckhead, and when you register, you will then get the specifics on where that course is. It's going to be on Saturday and Sunday of this week, where you can do it outside of obviously your work hours, and you also would, and also that's shown here is that you're getting a discount rate with this particular presentation today. So $950 per student is what we're charging for the course. It's normally $11.95 for the course, but we're reducing costs to try to get a good number in the course so that we can really do the program increment in a very thorough way, so that you guys can experience the program increment, being that it is the cornerstone of the SAFE framework. And then also drinks and snacks will be provided throughout the entire sessions. So really quickly, let's listen, if we can, to Robert Max's testimonial, and then I'll take any questions that you guys may have, okay? Hopefully this plays well.
My name is Robert Max. I'm responsible for the Global Application Technology Group within Novelis. And during my readings, I found that SAFE was a very good topic. In terms of the way we approach our support of our applications and the way we do what we do, it's very much off-the-shelf software. So this was a great topic. Sought out Leon and Craig in order to give that class instruction to both myself, my peers, and the associates working for me. I was very impressed. The class is well structured, tremendous amount of content. The content was immediately applicable when I got back to my office, and I'm very confident that I'll be able to take the certification exam without any issues. So all in all, I'm very delighted with having taken this course.
Okay, so I think a pretty raving review. I think he really spoke to all of the key points. The number one that I thought was extremely telling is the fact that it was immediately applicable when he went back to his office, which was what the leadership such as Rob really want to take out of courses. And he sought after us because of all the credentials that we bring to the table, and the fact that we are endorsed by SAP as a Focused Solution Circle member or partner. So that being said, let me open up the floor for any questions that you guys may have, and to see what we need to do to earn your business.
Hi, this is Yvette. I do have a question, trying to understand exactly what you guys do. Is there a way you can give me a real life example of how you would use SAFE to do digital transformation for a company?
Absolutely. Great question. So in a digital transformation, as you probably know by asking the question, is that it is a transformation of the organization, both from an IT perspective and from a business perspective. And I'll use the example, Yvette, as a company looking to leverage SAP, for example, for that digital transformation. Now, just from a definition perspective, just to ensure that we're on the same page, when I speak of digital transformation, I'm speaking to the fact that the firm now is going to leverage either an updated version or a different version or a different application altogether to help to facilitate their business, right? Or to improve or to change their business for the better. Well, what the SAFE methodology would do, or framework would do, is everything across the board. And let me explain. So first, it would be a framework that you can leverage to determine whether or not the approach that you are embarking on is the right approach from a cost-effective perspective. So basically, at the portfolio level, what I was speaking of the strategic themes before, you would be able to take a look at various different options to help you with that digital transformation to facilitate your business. And based on the functionality, based on the options, based on the capabilities of those applications or solutions that you're looking to deploy, you can basically come up with a very methodical way of choosing the right approach or right software to deploy. That's number one. Number two, it provides you the ability to determine the best approach or the best features that you would basically be using in those tool set to align with what your business is now about to embark on from a transformation perspective, to improve, to increase, to grow. So whatever functionality that is required, SAFE is a way in which you can leverage its processes to help you to determine the best approach to deploy working software to facilitate your business. Thirdly, it allows you to form a very transparent, cohesive, organization-wide, if you will, team or teams that would basically be utilized to do all of the work that's necessary to do the development, the testing, and the deployment of working software that would align with your business direction. So from top to bottom. And lastly, it has the processes embedded within the framework that offers an agile perspective, if you will, that would allow you to have steps or a agile team approach to doing to building and testing and deploying working software into your production environment using agile processes and a test-first driven process as well. Does that help?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. Any other questions? Okay, I have a question for you guys. I guess I'll just start with you, Yvette. What's your role in your organization today, and what attracts you to learning about SAFE?
So right now, I just actually received my PMP certification.
Okay.
And right now, I am just really trying to figure out how I'm going to use that certification, in what arena, in what way. I do know that I no longer want to work for another company,
Okay.
another, corporate America. I would like to do my own consulting.
Okay.
And when Mag mentioned it, I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. Let me just hear and see what that is. That's why I was asking those questions. Mm-hmm. Just to see if it was something that I would be interested in, because I hadn't heard of it before.
Gotcha. Well, I guess, and that's so based on your ambitions. That was a great question, and I hope I was able to answer it thoroughly. But I would also include this, is that when you're talking about going on your own, which I did that some years ago. And you want to be marketable and stay consistent in terms of being on projects, you have to know and align with the latest and greatest. And you have to be able to also be able to adapt very quickly and be able to keep up with the speed of your customer's business. Well, what SAFe would allow you to do in that regard, which is slightly different from the project and PMP, is be more agile in your efforts and offerings. Because what companies are doing today, and you can see it by all of the big guys, AWS and Azure, for example, they are releasing working code into the production environment on a day-to-day basis. So with a PMP waterfall framework or waterfall approach, that's very difficult to do because of just how the project management structure is set up. Well, with the Agile approach, and with SAFe in particular, given that you have processes that are aligning across the entire organization, it kicks down or tears down those barriers that would ordinarily prevent you from being able to release code into your environment on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, when the organization needs fast, quick responses that are accurate and aligned with the business efforts and the business growth, you will be able to provide that as a consultant, but with this particular skill set that you bring to the table. Hope that helped.
It does. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm. So I think I saw a Deborah. If I can ask you the same question, Deborah, what drew you to SAFe? Are you with us, Deborah? Deborah Carter. Okay, how about Michael? Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Oh, so similar to what the young lady just spoke, I'm in an environment where it's not as friendly to any type of project management and in dire need of change in processes as well as in production. And so this will allow me the opportunity to be more flexible in trying to introduce transformation, digital transformation in that environment if they're open to it, and then also embarking upon an opportunity to be marketable as a consultant in any arena for that matter.
Gotcha. Now, Michael, what type of applications do you typically work with? Do you work with SAP, for example, or you're really tool agnostic yourself as well?
Yeah, right now we're not in any environment to deploy any type of applications where I am and learning. I recently got my PMP certification and have understood the importance of employing some type. We're just not in there yet, and so I'm just really trying to make myself as marketable as possible to introduce it.
Gotcha.
In my area, and then show the results of it, so that we could possibly do it organization wide.
Understood. Absolutely. So I would say the same. Is that the marketability and to keep up with the times, if you will, and also be ahead of the times. The Scale Agile framework is an approach that's being rapidly adopted because of its ability to scale across the entire organization. Now, you probably heard of we're going agile, and people use that term very lightly, whereas they're really not agile, but they speak a couple of terms, and they kind of peg themselves as being so because they know what those terms means in their environment, so to speak. So, but from a practical sense and being able to use that and being able to really lead the organization down a path that is going to make them more effective and successful, that's what really would put you in a position, Michael, to demand the rate that you would be deserving, because you have the skills, the understanding, and the knowledge that you can perhaps get out of one of our courses that can prepare you for that particular effort, or that particular role. So I wish you good luck with that. And I would certainly love to help you with that, with taking one of our courses.
Gotcha, I appreciate it.
So I saw that Deborah, are you with us now? I saw you stated in the text that you were saying something, but we couldn't hear you. Yeah, I don't think I can hear you. Sorry. Okay. If you want to text it, Deborah, I'll come back to it, and then I'll ask it for you, and then I'll answer it. I think this is important to do, guys, in terms of getting some of these questions out, only because I want to make sure that your questions are being asked and answered, and then others may have the same question that you have. So that's why I thought it would be helpful if I were to do it this way. So Angela, could you tell me why you decided to take the Introduction to SAFE course? Are you with us, Angela?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
No problem.
I've worked in SAP for Pratt & Whitney Aerospace, United Technologies.
Okay.
So I have some years of experience with it, and I was interested to know what this was about, and as well as marketability. I am changing from procurement. I just earned my MBA in project management, and I'm studying now for my PMP certification. So this is something that I was interested in, again, because of the marketability, something that I think that would add my skill sets, for a better future. So that's why I was interested.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you attended. Being in the aerospace industry, obviously we can relate because I did a 2-year project with Boeing where I kind of talked about a little bit where they had SAP and they were deploying SAFE. And they utilized SAFE to transform to S/4HANA, as I mentioned. So I can speak directly to your request in terms of it certainly would make you more marketable because we took the approach that I articulated earlier, which is we started with a small department that had all of the parameters that we knew that would make them successful. Once they were successful, we were able to illustrate and to speak about their success, and it got other departments to adapt and I guess come into the fray, if you will, to say that we want to also be safe as well. So what that means is that the organization is now adapting the framework, and they're changing the way that they're working internally. So you can just imagine your ability or your certification in this space, how it can immediately make you marketable in the aerospace or any other firm for that matter, but particularly in Boeing because they are making a transformation as we speak. So having the skill set that you sought after yourself to adopt the SAFE framework is going to really put you in a position to where you can be extremely attractive to the organization, as I'm assuming that you would like to.
May I ask which Boeing site have you implemented?
I implemented 2CES, the second century, if that makes any sense to you.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm coming from a Pratt & Whitney background. We work with Boeing, but I've never been to their facility. Is that in the Orlando area or?
No, ma'am. I flew every week to Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Okay.
Yeah. So I went back and forth from Seattle for 2 years, and I got a lot of status with Delta. That's for sure.
You did 2 years.
But I also was able to take full advantage of helping a firm such as Boeing to transition to SAFE. And it was helpful for Boeing and also helpful for my my career, to be honest with you.
And how long was the implementation process? How long did it take? You mentioned you were out there going back and forth for 2 years, but per department, how long did it take for Boeing, if you have that answer rather?
No, that's a great question, actually, and here's the answer to that. So the implementation of SAFE itself is only going to take roughly, well, when I say implementation, I'm talking about the formation of your value streams that I talked about earlier, which is, and also the formation of your Agile release trains, the training of individuals, and the setup of the infrastructure that helps you to maintain that infrastructure from an application perspective, right? The statusing of work, so on and so forth. That took about 3 to 4 months. But the coaching that it takes to basically move from or begin to kind of transform the way you do business, and making sure that the organization aligns and stay consistent and stay focused on doing it the way that they've been taught, that is an ongoing project. So as a leader in SAFE, with the SAFE Agilist certification, you would have the onus or have some responsibility to help with that effort. Because you would essentially become a coach, you would become an advocate of the SAFE framework, and you would be educated and skilled to where you can help the organization to stay on course and stay on track. So that's what the 2 years came in at, because the coaching was 75, 80% of the work that I did. Okay, so Deborah says, I apologize for but not sure why you can't hear me. I'm not speaking on mute. However, I'm not familiar with SAFE. Magdalene invited me to call, so I joined to get more specifics. I'm currently in the process to start studying for my PMP. I'm not sure if I need PMP before pursuing SAFE or not. No, ma'am, you don't. Those are completely different methodologies and approaches. It would, however, make you marketable, and I'm not going to say more or less marketable, to have both, because you are basically, flexible in that sense. Because, although I would like to say it would not be true that all companies are not going to go to SAFE, perhaps, at least not in the very beginning. So there will be companies that will still be doing waterfall, but I think just to be a little biased, I think that some of those companies who would basically at least have some aspect of Agile into their environment, so that you can utilize both of the skills to make yourself even more marketable. So I'll put it that way. If that is something that is attractive to you, then I would encourage you to take the course that we have coming up.
Now, with the course, this is Angela again, with the course that is coming up, what course time, when will you have another course? Because that's just too soon for me this week.
I'm going to have another one next week as well. And the one that's next week is going to be, I've discussed this with Magdalene as well. We're going to do the one that's starting next week, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, obviously. We're going to split it up in 2 Saturdays. So what is the next Saturday is going to be the 7th, no, sorry, the 8th. And then we're going to have another one on the 15th. So those are going to be the 2 days that we'll have for the next one.
Okay. I think in your presentation, it stated that you would have pretty much courses on weekly basis. Is that correct?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And yeah, we discussed that, Magdalene and I, to split it up that way, just so that we feel, or based on her experience, she had mentioned that if we did it that way, it would allow the organization, or allow the individual to basically absorb the first half of the course that I would present. And then when we go into the next half, which would be that following Saturday, there would probably be some questions and things would have sunken in. It would be just more that digestible if we broke it up in that way. So we're gonna try that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we can do and Magdalene just text as well. We can do the July dates as well. So the July dates we can do something similar to that, or we can do during the. I'm also going to be doing some during the week as well. But right now we have some proposals on the table that is going to bring us inside organizations to do this type of rollout. So that's why I'm being flexible where I can be to provide the training on the weekend.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions that you guys have? I have one more question. If you guys don't have any other ones. Okay, I see another one coming in here from. Okay, thank you. The other question that I have is, what would prevent you guys from signing up for the course today?
Right now, this is Angela again speaking. I'm trying to complete my PMP certification. So I just completed, like I stated, university level, and I wanted the next thing to be my PMP, but I'm definitely interested, but it probably wouldn't be until July for me.
Okay, that's fair. How about you, Michael?
I'm in a transition kind of phase right now.
Mm-hmm.
And a week out would be a little bit too soon, but I'm definitely looking at the July dates as well, because just with the information given, I'm very interested in it. So it'd be more
Okay.
for me as well.
Okay. Okay.
And July would work better for me as well. This would be just a little pushing it to try to do it this weekend.
No, I understand. I understand. There are some things that we can do to help with that. Just keep in mind from a financial perspective. But yeah, I want to just leave that on the table too, if that was was an issue with anyone. And what I would do is suggest that you reach out to me directly, and then let's discuss how we can help with that. But if that's the barrier, then we can ensure that that's not the barrier. Is my point. Okay. So Magdalene wanted me to say hello to the Magnify team.
Yes, Magnify.
Hi.
Hey.
Magnify is here.
Okay.
Hi.
All right. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys so much for joining the introduction to Leading Safe webinar. Keep in mind what I mentioned in terms of if there's assistance that's needed, you can reach directly out to me. I am going to I believe this webinar is going to be available for repeat if you wanted to listen to it again. I'm going to provide. Well, Magdalene has my contact information, so if you wanted to, you can take my email down now, and you can send me an email, and then I can respond to you with the deck if you like, as well as you can reach out to me, as I mentioned, to kind of talk a little bit about how we can help if the timing is not right for other reasons. We can help with that. And let me do this. I will, in the chat window to everyone, place my email address. And then you can copy it from the chat, and then you will have it. And I'll also put my telephone number in as well. And as you can see here, if you want to register for the course, you can go to Excellion.com/training, and you can register directly from our website. All right. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for your time and your attention. Magdalene, you got any other statements you want to make, or Dave? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys again so much, and I'll be looking to hear from you. And have a great evening.
Thank you.
Right. Same. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.